Be in the right. Good morning, Brevard Christian Church. How's everybody doing this morning? Good, good. All right. Well, my name's Shannon. It's so good to see you. Before we start today, I'd like to introduce our new drummer, Mr. Andrew Jones. He is, yes. He's from our youth group, and so we're so happy and blessed that he's able to join our praise team today. So with that, I'd like to invite you to stand, and let's worship our wonderful and great God this morning. Crown for a cross, willingly died, your innocent life paid the cost. Counting your status is nothing, the King of all kings came to serve, washing my feet, covering me with your love. Take everything, 'cause all of you is all I need. Take everything. You are my life and my treasure, that I can't live without. Here at your feet, my desires and dreams I lay down. Here at your feet, my desires and dreams I lay down. Live more of you. 1,000 stories of what they think you're like, but I heard a tender whisper of love in the dead of night as you tell me that you're pleasing, that I'm never alone. You're good, good Father. It's who you are. It's who you are. It's who you are. And I'm loved by you. It's who I am. It's who I am. It's who I am. I see many searching for answers far and wide, but I know we're all searching for answers. Only you provide. I know just what we need before we say a word. You're good, good Father. It's who you are. It's who you are. It's who you are. And I'm loved by you. It's who I am. It's who I am. It's who I am. You are perfect in all of your ways. You are perfect in all of your ways. You are perfect in all of your ways to us. You are perfect in all of your ways. You are perfect in all of your ways. You are perfect in all of your ways to us. Love so undeniable, I can hardly speak. Peace so unexplainable, I can hardly think as you call me. Deeper still as you call me. Deeper still as you call me. Deeper still into love. Love, love, you're good, good Father. It's who you are. It's who you are. It's who you are. And I'm loved by you. It's who I am. It's who I am. It's who I am. You're good, good Father. It's who you are. It's who you are. It's who you are, and I'm loved by you. It's who I am. It's who I am. It's who I am. You are perfect in all of your ways. You are perfect in all of your ways. You are perfect in all of your ways to us. You are perfect in all of your ways. You are perfect in all of your ways. You are perfect in all of your ways to us. Sing that one more time. You are perfect in all of your ways. You are perfect in all of your ways. You are perfect in all of your ways to us.
We are in a series of women in the Bible, and today's woman is Esther. Now, if you read in the Bible, it may say Esther, it may say Hadassah, but we're going to go with Esther. This story takes place long before it takes place. Something you need to be familiar with is a scene. It's in a garden. A man and a woman, and they were told not to eat of this one tree. You've heard that one. When God comes and he's letting them know what's getting ready to go on, he gets down to the serpent who had tempted Eve, and he says that there's one that's going to come from the woman, and he is going to crush your head and you're going to bruise his heel. From that point on, the rest up until that one Messiah to come, Satan, I believe, was doing whatever he could to try to combat that. Try to do whatever he can to keep God's plan from happening. If you're a Christian in here and you believe that Jesus is the Christ, the Son of the living God, then you believe that Satan did not win, that Jesus did conquer death, and now we get to live in his life. But that wasn't the case for everyone between Jesus and the garden. They were waiting for a Messiah to come. In about 1000 BC, we had a guy named David. He became a king, King David. And he was a man after God's own heart. You've heard that? Man after God's own heart. That's quite a designation to be put on you. Wow. He had a son named Solomon. Not a man after God's own heart, but he sure did build up this empire, this kingdom. And there was a temple built, there was a house built. But what I want to share with you is that he had many a wife. And that created economy, and that created connection with other rulers of the time. His children did not last very long. They were not honoring to God, most all of them. Eventually, a place called Babylon came in and took over. And this is where you get into Daniel with one of Nebuchadnezzar's dreams. And Daniel says, let me tell you what the dream means. That your statue, the head of gold, that's your empire, O Nebuchadnezzar. But then there's going to be an empire for the body of silver, and then the legs of bronze, and then the clay and the mixture of the feet. I want to talk to you about, we'll call it the Silver Age. It's when the Persians ruled the world, if you will. When the Persian Empire was in command. In command, they had a guy by the name of King Xerxes. Now, he has another name if you read it in the scriptures, but we're just going to call him King Xerxes, or the king. Are you ready for the story? Okay, this takes place about maybe 480 BC. The king Xerxes went to war and went to war. Two things that the Persians were good at was war and how to party. Now, we're not talking about maybe the parties that you've been to or the party life that you may have lived. We're talking about they knew how to party so much that their parties lasted 6 months. 6-month party. And during the 6-month party, King Xerxes wanted all the officials to know how much he had. And so they would parade all of the king's stuff. For like 6 months, you got to see stuff. And there was probably dancing and song and all of the drinkings and the festivals and the feast. We're talking 6 months. But then, if 6 months wasn't enough, hold on, we're not going to leave yet. We're going to party for 7 more days. So there was the 6-month party. And then who knows. Those were the people probably at the 7-day party. And on day 7 of the after party, King Xerxes had enough liquor in his system that he said to one of the servants, go and tell my queen, we'll call her Queen Vashti, tell Queen Vashti to come over to us men, because at that time, during the after party, I would assume, for these 7 days, the women had their own quarters to party, and the men had their own quarters to party. And King Xerxes had enough liquor in his body that he said, have her come over here. In essence, the less that she's wearing, the better. And I want her to show her beauty to my guys. So The servant goes over to the queen and probably says something like, "Oh, queen, may you live forever, just to let you know that your king wants you to come over, and if you could probably just be wearing the crown and that's it, that would be wonderful in his eyes." And she basically says, "You can tell the king that he can take his request and he can shove it, you understand?" So the servant's like, "All right." So he goes over to the king and says, "King, may you live forever," or something like that. "And I just want to let you know, O king, that the queen took your request and she wants to send it back to you like this." And the king is not happy. In fact, he's furious, and now he's been embarrassed in front of all his menfolk, and that doesn't go well, to the point where he has to keep face. And to keep face, he has to banish her or exile her. She's no longer the queen. And this isn't just a like, you're off the shelf. This has to be decreed throughout all of 127 provinces. That's how far his reign was. I mean, he was the empire of the time. This king was the king of kings in this moment. And you don't give disrespect to the king like that, even though you're the queen. That doesn't matter. So when she gives that request back to him and she's not showing up, he has to let everyone know about it, because otherwise there may be a movement for all the women to all of the men. This story of Esther doesn't take place within like just days or months. Like this is probably, I'll just go out on a limb and probably say, it's probably more like a decade-long story. What we're getting ready to tell in just minutes, it's years and years of time. So Queen Vashti is put aside, probably not killed, but she's no longer part of even the harem. She's gonzo. And now there's no queen. Years later, some of them said, "Hey, king," probably he's moping around and off to war, but then back, and he's probably not partying like he used to. I don't know. But they say, "Oh, king, we want you to feel better. We think you need to have a queen. But don't just pick a queen, just off the street. Let's do something different. King, we have this idea. Let's have a beauty pageant. And not just like a few women. We're talking about of all the virgins and all 127 provinces, let's bring them here. All the young virgins, bring them here, and we will have a beauty pageant for 6 months. They'll be taken care of with all the aloes and all of the fragrances to make them smell great. And then also for another 6 months, we'll beautify them in different arrays. And after that year, then you can pick one from all of the virgins, and you can then declare her your next queen." And the king goes, "That's a pretty good idea. I kind of like the sound of that. All right, let's do it." Stamp of approval. And so it goes out as a decree that all of these young virgins have to come and go through this beauty pageant. That includes all races, that includes all ethnicities, that includes everyone. It also includes this young lady named Esther. Now, Esther was not raised by her parents. Her parents must have died at a young age. She was raised by her kinfolk named Mordecai. Mordecai was her cousin, but in this story, he's more like a father to her. And he most likely works in some sect of the government. So he has word that there's this beauty pageant, and he tells his Esther, "You have to go and participate. Go and participate, but I want you to know this. Here's 3 things. The first thing is this: I will look after you. I have enough connections every day. I'm going to come check on you. I'm going to look after you. I'm going to make sure that you're taken care of. We're still going to have this relationship. It's going to be okay." Next 2 things. One of them is this: do not let them know that you're a Jew. Don't let them know that you're of our people. You cannot let them know that. Second thing on these 2, do not do this, is this: do not let them know that we're related. Those 2 things. Don't let them know your ethnicity, and do not let them know that we're related. And I will take care of you. She trusts her father, and she goes and she participates. And quickly, she becomes the favorite, not of the king, but of the people taking care of her. And this goes well with her. There's some young girls that come alongside of her, and of course, if she's the favorite and she's getting pampered, then they want to be included, and then they get pampered. And I would assume that there's also some sect of women that don't like her because she's being favored, and high school girls, am I right? So anyway, the 6 months go by, the other 6 months go by, and then the king gets the pick of the litter. I got to explain to you, it's not like he goes in and says, contestant number 7, you're my girl. You other ones, number 24, I really thought you had something, but I'm going to have to send you home. There was no sending home. Once you're in this beauty pageant, the king could do whatever he wanted with you that night. And then if he wanted to discard you, he would discard you. But you weren't going home to mom and dad. You weren't going to then have a life of your own with a husband having kids. You were now going to be a part of a harem in the king's palace in a certain section, and you were going to be a widow the rest of your life. Because if the king didn't call you back in for when he wanted an arrangement with you, no one got to touch you because now you're the king's property. Do you see how twisted this beauty pageant is? Yeah. In fact, there were some that he would call back in. Those were his girlfriends. But majority of them, I would assume, they were just widows the rest of their life. No kids. That means no family line from you. Do you see how this really had to have messed with the psyche? Well, you're taken care of. It's kind of twisted, isn't it? I'm thankful that I don't live in that. At the same time, I look at our own world, and there's some things where if I really sat down, I'd have to go, it's kind of twisted, isn't it? It's kind of twisted. Let's continue the story. This one girl out of all of them, this lady named Esther, she became the king's favorite. And he puts a crown on her, and now no longer is she Hadassah, she's now Esther. And she's no longer Esther, she is Queen Esther. Now the king has a queen, and what Persians love to do is they love to party. So of course they're going to throw a party because the king now has a queen and life is good again. I need to tell you another story of the story. Mordecai gets word that there were these two guards for the king, and they had decided, and they guarded the threshold of the king's quarters, I believe, and they had decided, we're going to kill off the king. Now, why would they want to kill off the king? Some say that they would probably want to kill off the king because the king was probably doing more partying than he was going off to war, and funds were going down because he was spending all this money on the parties. Whether that's true or not, I can see a reason for why you would want to kill someone off like that. Mordecai gets word. Mordecai tells the queen that no one knows that they are related. He tells the queen tells the king, and the king has these two guards offed. All that story is written down in the history books and the chronicles, and it's put up on the shelf. That's key for later on in the story. Two guys want to kill off the king. Mordecai finds out, tells the queen tells the king. King has them killed, written down, put on the shelf. Enters right a new character. His name is Haman. Haman was a bad mamma jamma. Have you ever been around someone and you're like, man, they are the spawn of Satan, right? This guy was not the spawn of Satan. This guy was Satan. I mean, he was the prehistoric Hitler. This guy somehow weaseled his way up through finances, I would assume, to becoming like second in command next to the king. So much so that the king gave him his own signet ring. Like the king was able to make decrees with this one ring, and Haman was the guy who got to wear that. It's a big deal. This guy Haman had a wife. Good for him. This guy Haman had 10 sons. That's a lot of kids. And he, in a sense, was trying to build his own empire. Do you see this? And he weasels his way up to being second in command of the king. So much so that the king didn't just have people bow down to himself, but he said, everyone must bow down to Haman. Do you see this? So Haman would walk through the town, he would walk through the courts, he would walk through wherever, and people would have to bow down to him. And there was one person that just refused to bow down, and his name was Mordecai. Mordecai, the cousin father of the queen, would not bow down to this Haman guy, and Haman didn't know it. Some of the eunuch servants noticed and said, hey, Mordecai, everyone else is bowing down to Haman. Why won't you bow down to him? And we're not sure exactly the reasons. Maybe he has trying to wear his colors, like he has pride in his nation that only bow down to God and the king of the time. Whatever the case is, a man has his standards and he will not bow down to this guy named Haman. Those eunuchs challenge him and say, all right, we'll see about that. And they go and they tell Haman. At this point, Haman is furious because all Haman can do is focus on the one speck of dust on the ground. The whole other place is bowing down to him. Everyone else, in essence, is worshiping the ground that he walks on. But that's not good enough for him because he feels disrespect. And because he feels disrespect, he focuses on this one guy named Mordecai. And then the servants say, oh yeah, by the way, he's a Jew. And so he doesn't just focus on the speck. Now he's thinking genocide. I'm not just going to stick it to this man. I'm going to stick it to his whole people. I'm going to take his cats. I'm going to drown him. He's thinking these crazy thoughts. He's going to kill off not just Mordecai, but he's going to kill off, are you seeing this? He's going to kill off a whole race of people. He's going to kill off a whole nation. And it wasn't too long ago, not even 100 years ago, where somebody else tried to do the same thing. Somehow people in life can weasel their ways up into power, and next thing you know, we're going, how did we get here? How did this happen? And then we start to go, well, where's God? I believe as a Christian, what I want to get to the point is I want to be able to look back in history and see that God was there the whole time. I want to be able to look back in life and recognize God's presence. I want to be a person who can look back and see that even though in the miraculous things I may think that are miracles, or the moments that are just common, in the good and the bad, I want to be able to look back and I want to see that God was working the whole time, even when it seemed like God was silent. And I believe that is a mark of a mature follower of Jesus. The whole book of Esther, God's name is never mentioned. Not once. Yahweh is never on the pages. But God's presence is just drenched on the pages. Because what we see as coincidences of the story, it's laced with God's fingerprints. Haman decides that he's going to kill off not just this one guy who's disrespecting him that he doesn't even know, but he's going to kill off the guy's family and the guy's people and the guy's nation. So he goes to the king and says, "O king, may you live forever," or something like that. I would like to kill off a whole group of people. Let me tell you why. These people, they're doing their own thing. They worship this other god, and also they really don't abide by your rules. So he weasels his way in. He convinces the king, and the king says, "Oh, okay." And he also says something about silver. It's almost as if Haman says, "Oh yeah, I've been noticing that the funds for the wars are kind of going down. I got some fund cash. I could just, throw this over there. Been doing pretty well in the stocks. So, I'll throw this in." The king is like, "I like it. Yeah, let's have a kill a Jew day." And so on a certain day of the last month, because he threw some dice or what have you, Haman decides what day that we're going to have a kill a Jew day. And the idea is this decree goes out with a signet stamp from the signet ring that 127 provinces, everyone there, if you have a neighbor who is of the Jewish nationality, you on this one day are allowed by the king's permission that you can kill off that man, that woman, and all their kids, and you can plunder all of their belongings. I bet some people got ready, and fear broke out in the Jewish race. So much so that Mordecai believed that he needed to do something about it. Now, they lived in the city of Susa, the capital, and so he probably got word what was going to go on before the Pony Express reached everybody else. Mordecai started ripping his clothes, which was a sign of grief. He also probably quit eating. He's probably already fasting at this time, praying to God, God, make something happen. I trust that somehow you're going to bring a Messiah through all this, but please don't let me and my family have to suffer through this. He positions himself in like a courtyard area to where Queen Esther can see him. Now, Queen Esther, what you need to remember, is she's being pampered. She's living the best life of any woman on earth. And there's this guy named Mordecai that raised her, and I picture it from a window. It's not in the story, but I just picture her looking down and seeing the person who raised her in total grief. I mean, just messed up. So she does what a lot of us try to do. Fix it. Throw some money at it. She gathers up some clothes and tells a servant, go give these to Mordecai. Maybe this will make him feel better. I'm not so sure that she also received the king's decree, because no one at this point knows who she is and what she is. Mordecai refuses the clothes, and he sends back a message with the servants and basically says, you're the queen. You're a Jew. We're all getting ready to die. You've got to do something about this. And so she responds through a servant, and she says something to the effect of, don't you get it? What am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to do about this? I mean, yeah, I'm the queen, but that doesn't mean I can just go wherever I want in this palace. I mean, the king hasn't even asked me to come into his presence for 30 days. And everyone who's anyone knows that you don't just barge in and start talking to the king, because everyone who's anyone knows that if you do something like that, your reward is death. Anyone who's ever done that dies, unless the king takes his scepter and he gives a thumbs up instead of a thumbs down. That's the only way that anyone ever survives a situation like that. No way am I going to do that. Now, some people are really, really harsh on her at this point, where it's like, look at this, privileged female of who she was. Well, why in the world should we have any grace on her? I just want to go back to her story of like, she didn't ask for this. I just want to recognize that. At the same time, the next verses that I'm going to get ready to read, they have such an impact on her that her maturity level skyrockets. See if you can catch it. It's chapter 4, verse 12. Esther, chapter 4, verse 12 and following. And I would like to read it for you. And they told Mordecai what Esther had said. Then Mordecai told them to reply to Esther, do not think to yourself that in the king's palace you will escape any more than all the other Jews. For if you keep silent at this time, relief and deliverance will rise for the Jews from another place, but you and your father's house will perish. And who knows whether you have not come to the kingdom for such a time as this. Then Esther told them to reply to Mordecai, go, gather all the Jews to be found in Susa, and hold a fast on my behalf. And do not eat or drink for 3 days, night or day. I and my young women will also fast as you do. Then I will go to the king, though it is against the law, and if I perish, I perish. Mordecai then went away and did everything as Esther had ordered him. That is the turning moment for Esther. That's the moment where the girl became the woman. Some people say heroes are born. They're not born. Somebody said, no, they're not born. They're built up. Heroes are built up for certain specific moments of life. And this girl goes from being pampered to the one who's going to possibly perish. So she says, I need help with this. I can't do this on my own. Mordecai, get everyone together, and you guys start praying. She goes back to her roots. Do you see this? She goes back to what she believes. God is never mentioned in this book, but he's laced throughout. Fasting, prayer, what's that lead to? Fasting and prayer. She's recognizing we need divine intervention. Otherwise, I'm toast. So she doesn't just have other people pray, she prays. And also she's willing to let other people know that she's a Jewish woman by allowing her servants and the other women in on the fasting and praying. Do you see how she's already exposing herself to the situation? This is a girl who's no longer a girl. This is a woman who recognizes adult decisions have adult consequences. That the decisions that she's getting ready to make could end her life. This was the changing moment. After 3 days, she puts on some nice clothes, so that way the king will probably hopefully go, ooh, hey, look at you. And so she puts on the right robes, and she goes in front of the king so he can see that she's in his presence, and he doesn't kill her. He says something like, oh, my queen, come on in. And she probably says something like, oh, king, live forever. And he says, oh, queen, you too. And he says, what can I do for you? I would love to give you even half of my kingdom. I mean, like, he is so, he loves her. I mean, like, this guy's all about this woman, going to give half the kingdom. What can I do for you, he says. And she says, hey, I know you like to party. I wondered if you would come to my party. I'd love to come to your party. Great. It's going to be you, me, and can you bring that Haman guy? Well, sure, I can bring Haman. Just the three of us? Yeah, just the three of us. Okay, for sure. We'll be there tonight. Great. Love it. So she goes, she prepares this feast. They show up, Haman and the king, and life is great. They're drinking, they're eating, and at one point, there's that moment where the king goes, oh yeah, the reason why we're here. Why is that again? Oh, my queen, what would you like from me? What can I do for you? And then she just has this moment where she can't talk, where it's like, and she has this thing called LBS. Do you know what that is? It like lower back sweat. Have you ever had that? Yeah, where she's chicken. Like she's so anxious, she doesn't know what she's doing. She can't handle this moment, so she pushes it another day. She's scared. So she says, I would like to throw another party. Tomorrow night, you, me, Haman, one more time, another party, and I will then tell you what my request is. And the king's like, my name's Xerxes, and I like to party. Let's party on. So the next night, they're going to party. Haman leaves this party, and he's feeling good. I just had a party with the king and the queen all by myself. I'm the best of the best of the best. No one is as cool as me. And it's as if he's walking home and he looks to his right and there's Mordecai, and Mordecai will not bow down. And now he's furious and angry, and he makes his way home, and he starts to vent to the people at his house, and he starts to vent to his wife, and his wife says, wait, honey. I know you've been waiting for Kill a Jew Day, but why not just kill a Jew now? Why don't you call some carpenters up tonight? Have them put some gallows up in the backyard. Well, let's throw up, 70-footers. Now, from here to here, I've been told, is 33 feet. From the floor to the peak here, we're talking 70 foot tall. It's like, it's a little excessive, Haman's wife. But there's a point to it, right? When a man's disrespected, he will go to long distances, and he will build a 70-foot gallows just to let everyone know that he will not put up with disrespect. Do you see this? Okay. He says, this is a great idea. Let me call the carpenters. He has the servants come. They start building. He's working on the blueprints of how he's going to talk to the king the next morning and say, hey, I've had this thought about genocide. Before we do the genocide, I want to have one homicide. His name is Mordecai. He's trying to figure out how he's going to tell the king this all night. The next morning, he's going to go and tell the king. That same night, the king can't sleep. The king can't sleep. For some reason, the king can't sleep that night. And he is so bored out of his gourd that instead of golf, he chooses the History Channel. He says, I want someone to read to me the books of history. So History Channel comes out and starts to read what was going on. And it just so happens that the servant turns to the page from the day that the two guards were plotting to kill the king. And the guy reads, this one day there were these two guards, they were plotting to kill the king, and this guy named Mordecai told the queen about it, and the queen told you, king, about it, and you had those two people executed. And the king goes, wait, what? So it's as if he reads it again, and the king says, wait, hold on a second. This Mordecai guy, did we ever do anything for him? I mean, did he ever get any, reward? Did we ever give him any sum of money? Has he ever, lifted up to another higher power? Like, did anything come about this? And History Channel says, no, none that I'm reading. Nothing happened. Just as that ends, the king looks out and he says, who is that out there? The servant says, oh, it's Haman. He says, bring him in here. Haman comes in there, and right before he can say, oh, king, may you live forever, the king says, hold on a second, I got a question for you. And with the blueprints in his hand, Haman just itching to ask him, is it okay if I kill off this Mordecai guy? The king says, Haman, what should be done to the person that the king delights in? What should be done for that type of person? And Haman, thinking that the king is talking about him, Haman goes, oh, I got a plan. Oh, king, the person that you delight in, they should wear new clothes, like your robes kind of a thing. And the horse that you ride, they should ride that horse. And they shouldn't just ride the horse, but you should have some grand official in your palace. They need to be paraded around with that person leading the horse. And everyone needs to be listening as that person's parading them around, saying, this is the person that the king delights in. Long live this person. They need to have the pomp and circumstance. That, O king, is what you need to do. And he's thinking, it's going to happen to me. This day only gets better and better. And the king says, great. I don't have time. Haman, I need you to go do that for Mordecai. The irony in this story is just unreal. So Haman reluctantly gets the horse, gets the clothes, gets the rope, and starts to chant, hear ye, or something like that. Look at the man that the king delights in. And it's Mordecai up on the horse, and it's Haman leading the horse. At this point, Haman is again furious, and he goes home and he tells his wife. And she doesn't have very many words of, condolences. And at that point, Haman gets summoned from the king. It's time for party number 2. Haman shows up. He's the only one there with the king. Probably feeling a little bit better because he gets this moment with the king and the queen. And then after the feast and as they're drinking, the king says, oh, my queen, what can I do for you? I'll give you half of my kingdom. And then the queen finally has the courage. And in a moment of bravery, she says, oh, my king, may you live forever. I just got to let you know, there's somebody out there that wants to kill me, but not just me, but all my people. All my people. They're wanting to kill me and all my people. And if it was just a moment where they just want to take my people and put us in a different, part of the world and banish us or make us slaves, I wouldn't say anything. But they actually want to take our lives. And they've got a plan to kill us off. There's a date set for it. And the king goes, who in the world would do this? No way. I won't let this happen to you. I won't let this happen to your people. You are mine. No one's going to touch you. You tell me who it is. I'll get him. I'll kill him with my own hands. That's how. And then the queen says, it's him. It's Haman. The king's perplexed. No way. What? He gets furious and he walks out. And then Haman realizes he's caught in between a rock and a rock. There's no getting out of this. So he just starts begging for his life. "Oh, my queen, may you live forever. I had no idea. I had no idea. I had no idea that you're a Jew, really? I didn't know idea. I would never have said that if I would have known that you were, please talk to the king. I'm going to lose my life over this." And he's positioned himself now no longer in his couch. He's now over on her couch with her, and he's getting closer and closer because he's getting ready to lose his life. And it's as if he's getting ready to grab her and just beg for his life. The king walks in and he sees what's going on, and you don't touch another man's wife, especially the king's queen. And he says, "Servants, grab him," and they put a bag over his head. And then one of the servants tells the king, "Hey, just to let you know, he had just built some gallows for a guy named Mordecai, and I think it's in the back of his yard. You want us to just use those?" And the king says, "Yeah, go ahead, hang him from that." The irony is thick. The rest of the story is basically that Mordecai reaches the level of where Haman was. The king takes the ring off of Haman and gives it to Mordecai. Esther gets Haman's house, and they have a situation. You cannot go against what the king's already decreed. So kill a Jew day is still on. There's nothing the king can even do to go against that. But what you can do is you can make a new decree. And the new decree is this, written up by like Mordecai and Esther. On that day, anyone who tries to kill one of their Jewish neighbors, that Jewish neighbor has the right to bear arms. And they can use whatever means possible to defend themselves, and not just defend themselves, but they can kill you and they can take all of your possessions. And at that moment, the fear left the Jews, and the fear went on all the other people. And people started saying things like, "You know what, this whole time, I didn't tell anybody, but a lot of my friends are Jewish. A lot of my friends are Jewish." In fact, some people even started to turn religions. Like they're like, I'm thinking about becoming Jewish. I'm thinking about, trading in and getting rebaptized. I don't know. You understand. This fear went throughout all the land, and instead of a day of death, it actually became, in the Jewish culture, a day of celebration. It's like now a holiday, Purim. I tell you that whole story to come back to one part. There was a moment where Queen Esther responds to Mordecai, her kin, and she says, "If I perish, I perish." Oftentimes we look at the other verse where it says, maybe you were born for such a time as this. Maybe you came into the kingdom for such a time as this. And I don't want to take any disregard for that. That's magnificent, because we can use that on each other. Like maybe this is the moment where God was asking you to step up. Maybe this is where God has planted you here in some place called Brevard County, and God wants to use you in these miraculous ways. I don't know. I'm just saying the part I want to bring out this morning is if I perish, I perish. Because it's the moment where this girl becomes a woman. It's where the boy becomes a man. It's where the person standing there who said that just leveled up, where they look in the past and they see everything in the past has all been about them. Every moment has led up to this moment. Everything before that moment was all about them, and they realize from this point on, life cannot be about me. There's something way higher at play. There's more at stake than just my well-being. Other people's lives are on the line. Life now cannot be about me. It has to be about others. It has to be about God's plan. There was another one who did the same thing. His name was Jesus. And I believe that's where we see in the garden, where Jesus says something like, "Father, if there's any other way to take this cup from me, but not my will, but your will be done." You know what Jesus is saying? He's saying, if I perish, I perish. But the whole thing is, life wasn't all about Jesus before. And if it was, he stepped down from that. And then he leads to this place, and he turns and he realizes everything about this is about everyone else. And I believe that when a man comes to Jesus, they have that realization. Maybe not initially, but when the Spirit starts stirring in a man, and the man starts becoming more mature, he starts to realize everything in the past even though I couldn't see him, I can look back in history and see that God was there the whole time, that God was placing people in my way to get my attention, that God was meeting my needs, that roof over the head wasn't put up there by myself, that God gave me the money to do that the finances were there because God allowed me to manage it, not because it was anything that I did. Do you see this? When a person looks back and sees that God was there the whole time, they cannot from that point then go to the future and say, it's about me now. And if they do, then they don't get it. Because when Jesus says, take up your cross daily and follow me, what Jesus is saying is he's saying, when a person realizes that they want to take me on, they've got to put away that life's about them and realize now life's about him, that life's about others. And because we can see what Jesus did, then that gives us the power to be like Esther. Not one who is born to be a hero, but one who's built up to do the things that Jesus did. For instance, you may look to the future and you may have instances where you're like, wow, I'm going to be rejected if I do that. I might get fired if I do that. And so you'll say things like, you know what? If I'm rejected by them, then I'm rejected. Why? Because Jesus was a man familiar with rejection. Jesus was a man familiar with suffering. And if he did all that for me, then I can do that for him. Or you look and you go, if I do that, I'm going to be laughed at by them. I'm going to be ridiculed by them. They're going to think of me as a clown. But you know what? If I get laughed at, then I get laughed at. Why? Because there was a man once who had a crown of thorns on with purple robes, blindfolded, beaten, flogged, ripped in two, and there were Roman soldiers around him, spitting on him and mocking him and laughing at him. And why did Jesus do that? Jesus did that for me because everything leading up to this moment, he did all of that for me. And so if he was laughed at, then I can be laughed at for him. I also want to throw this out at you. Too often we see life as it's in the big moments. We see that God works in like the revivals, right? And we get all energized when there's a revival through the country or a revival through your county or through your church. Or there's a revival in yourself. I don't know. Like, what does that even mean? Or we think, wow, it was that one time in the worship service or the prayer service or whatever you're going to call it. And you're like, I just felt connected to God. It's when I was with his people. And that's fine and dandy. But I'm here to tell you that God also works through the drunk. I mean, think about Esther's story. What if the king wouldn't have been intoxicated? Then Queen Vashti wouldn't have been summoned to do what she didn't want to do, and she wouldn't have rejected it, and then she would still be the queen. And there wouldn't have been an Esther in place, but there would still have been a Haman. He would have still wanted to kill off Mordecai because Mordecai wouldn't have bowed down, and there was still going to be a decree. And who was going to be and have the earshot of the king other than Haman to speak those wicked things? There wasn't going to be a Queen Esther to say, hey, someone's trying to kill me and my people. Do you see how her whole life, the whole book of Esther, when you finally dig down deep, it's not a book of coincidences, but it's a book of God's providence. Again and again and again and again and again. And I want you to look at your own life and not look back and go, look at all those coincidences. But even look at the shameful things that you've been a part of. All those moments. I'm not saying God ordained those moments. I'm not saying that God caused that stupidity. All I'm saying is God uses the foolishness of men. And when we can look back and see where God's been faithful the whole time, that God's been present the whole time in your life, and the good and the bad, whether you brought it upon yourself or it was just something that you went through, that God was there the whole time, even though he seemed silent, what you get is you get a person who becomes mature in Christ. That then, the rest of their life, they know that life can't be about them because there's more at stake. That men's souls are on the line, and it's not just your own. As we take communion, we take a piece of bread and we remember the body that hung on a cross for us so that we wouldn't have to. And we also take a cup that represents grace, the new covenant. I no longer live under the law, but I live under grace. And inside the cup is the juice, represents the blood that Jesus had, and he let it go because he realized life is about me. And as you take those symbols, would you remember that because of what Jesus did for you, that as you grow in him, life becomes less and less about you. And in return, it's actually the best life that you could ever ask for. When you're ready, come to the table. If you are a new guest here, I want to welcome you for the first time. Other than that, I have no announcements. May I pray with you? Father, thank you so much for being our God. May we take every step from here on out and trust you a little bit more, that where you lead us, that you have plans. Help us to get involved in your plans And help us, if we need reminded, to look to the past of how you've always been faithful, not just to us, but to those in the Bible, and you've been faithful to yourself. Help us to trust you in that. In Jesus' name, amen.